Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Legendary Leaders. I am your host, Katrina Jameson. I'm the founder of Legend Leaders, where we arm female business leaders with the strategies they need to master the one rule of career success in order to live life on their terms, a legend life. All right, we are diving into the topic of executing correctly. Am I doing this thing right? I'm an executive now. I finally made it. It's taken me about 10 years to get here, right? That's what we talked about last week. It's taken me about 10 years to get here. I finally arrived. I finally reached this coveted position. But crap, am I doing everything the way I'm supposed to? Am I doing this right? Am I about to blow all the work that I put into getting here? Those are the things we worry about. Today, we're going to talk about why mastering is a must. Mastering is a must. Now, I know that when you hear that, and I say to you, you must master the ability of executing, okay, executive performance. You've got to master it. Your brain goes, well, duh, Katrina, of course I've got to master it. I've got to be successful. I hear you. I know that you get it on a certain level. But let's go deeper. Let's not just surface understand why mastering is a must. Let's really dive in deep and define why mastering is a must for you. Because if you don't clearly define it, then you're not going to do it. You're going to stay on the surface and you're going to say that you've mastered it, but you really haven't. Okay? So mastering is a must. Why are we talking about it? Why am I bringing this up now? Well, the answer is probably for this reason. I lived it. I know a large number of women who've lived it. You may be living it in this moment. You've made it into the executive ranks. It was the coveted position, just like I said, that you've strived for. You're finally like, yes, I am here. I'm not a doer anymore. I'm a leader. I can breathe. I sacrificed so much of my personal self, my time, the time with my family. I said that my career was worth it. And I knew that it would be because I knew when I got to this role, when I achieved and landed in this position, this level of leadership, the executive ranks, when I got here, I could breathe. I could finally start living. I didn't have to sacrifice as much. I could enjoy my family more. Because now all the doers that are, in my line of leadership that fall under my role of responsibility, they're out there doing and sacrificing and putting time in, and I can breathe. Well, here's the deal. If you're not executing correctly, if you don't know how to exec, then you can't breathe yet. Again, I'm always going to throw out that word, yet. Yet matters. You just haven't gotten there yet. And the reason is, like we said, you focused on getting promoted, but you didn't focus on being prepared. Now you have to be prepared to exec. You've got to do it, which means you've got a learning curve. You learned how to do. Now you've got to learn how to lead. And so if you're in this phase of thinking, I'm tired, I just need some rest, I need to take a little bit of a break. We all know how important it is to start a role strong, to set the tone, to deliver your brand. So if you're thinking you're going to take a little bit of a break, I'm not saying that you've got to keep putting in, 70 hours a week if that's what you've been doing. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if you think that you're going to walk into meetings and just hang out and just assume that that's going to work for you, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. That won't work. So you can't take a month or two off mentally and just show up because you're exhausted and you're not really ready to learn another role. Now, I'm not saying that's you at all. I'm not saying that's where you are. All I'm saying is if subconsciously you're holding back a little bit or you're frustrated that you've got to learn a little bit more, let the frustration go. Put in the time now. We're going to create a process for you to go through, and you're going to get through it, and it's going to be okay. But don't damage your brain and don't damage everything that you work so hard to achieve by feeling like you've got to take a breather and you'll get there eventually. Because crap, now I've got to learn something new. I didn't realize I had to go through all of this. I'll wing it. I've always winged it. It's always worked for me in the past. I'll just figure it out. I know you have. You've always figured it out. But you figured out how to do something just at a little bit of a higher level. This is different. Being an executive is different. It requires different skill sets. It requires you to come in and know how to influence. It requires you to know how to sell an idea. It requires you to understand how to think strategically and create a vision and be innovative. It requires a lot more thought. So if you're thinking, I'm going to let my brain rest a little bit, that's the one part of your body that can't rest right now in this new executive role. You need it. It's got to work. This is why mastering is a must. You have to walk in understanding that you're going to learn and use a little bit of a different skill set. There's going to be a learning curve. It's going to be okay. No, you don't have to work yourself to death like you used to. There is the ability to take some breaks and some breathers, but it's not cold turkey, right? It's not, I've arrived, celebrate me, I get to breathe now, I'm going to work 9 to 5, because you're looking around at all these other executives and that looks like what they're doing. And you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe it is what they're doing. But maybe they've been in the role for several years, so they've already mastered it. Maybe they're on their way out, so they don't care anymore. Maybe their brand isn't what your brand is, right? We don't know. We don't know where they are in their journey, and we don't know what their brand is or what they really care about. But we do know yours. You know yours. And so I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to frustrate you. And sometimes I can be the bearer of bad news, and I've got to pull you out of something that you're thinking and hoping for and bring reality in. But I do all of that because I know deep down what you want. I know deep down you want to have career success because that's why you've worked your butt off to get where you are today, and you don't want to jeopardize it. So let's not jeopardize it. And if I see something that may be happening or something that you might do to jeopardize it, I'm going to tell you. That's what I'm here for. And the other thing I know you want is I know you want a balance of life. I know you want the memories. I know you want the time with your family. I know you want the self-care that you sacrificed for years. I know you want all of that. And it's still possible, and you're going to have that. You're going to get it. Learn how to exec. Commit to learning it. Commit to understanding that there is a learning curve and you've got to step into it while also having these other things. It's an and, not an or. We always talk about that here at Legend Leaders, right? It's not, do I have career success or a personal life? It's, I've got to have both. And in this phase of where you are, you must master the ability of executing correctly. Commit to it. So your homework this week, the challenge that I'm leaving you with, is just a self-reflection. There's some questions in the workbook. Download the workbook. If you didn't get it last week, get it this week. Do the questions from last week. Definitely do the questions for this week. This week is all about self-reflection. Okay? Have I allowed any preconceived notions about what I thought this position would be? Have I allowed any of that to creep in and blind me, quite frankly, from understanding the areas that I need to grow in, the areas that I want to improve in, the growth points that I must step into so that I can exec correctly? Because here's the other must, and I mentioned it very briefly last week, okay? The economy and where we are. If your company decides to make a change in the number of leaders that exist in the organization, you want to be the one that is executing correctly and providing the most value so that there's never a question on, are you important to the company? Do they need you? Because the answer will be yes, because of how you show up and how you exec. Okay? Be in that position. And the way you get in that position is you work through this process. Okay? So again, download the workbook if you haven't already. Go ahead and do the work and the questions that are in there for this week. If you've got questions, reach out. Please, I'm here. And if you want some support, specifically executing correctly, if you already know you want support, you've already listened to this and you're like, I'm raising my hand, Katrina. I know I'm not where I need to be. I want some help. Please reach out. We can go ahead and join each other on a 15-minute call, and I'll quickly give you an executing correctly audit and help you understand where you're sitting and help you move forward. As always, go and be legendary.